This video is to document my first encounter with Officer Greg Fraser, badge number 248 of the Medina Police Department. Basically, let me establish here that I was living at 226 North Avenue, Apartment 1, Medina, New York. That's where I was living there. And then over here, the first time I met Officer Greg Fraser was at the Medina Memorial Hospital. I was asleep in my vehicle because I was having severe heart problems, and I went to the hospital to be close to the ER. Matter of fact, I went into the ER, I talked to the emergency room lady. She told me if I wanted to go wait in my car for a while and to come back, and I did exactly that. That's when I encountered Officer Greg Fraser of the Medina Police Department. And
The other officer.
What's your name, sir?
Officer.
Oh, you're not going to tell me your name?
You didn't tell us yours.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yes, I did tell him my name.
That phone because you just recorded evidence of our stop. So if you want to hand that over for evidence, I'd appreciate it.
No, I don't have to give you my phone.
You do under state law.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
So you're telling me...
The U.S. Attorney General's office has now passed a law. Any phone recordings of a police interaction has now become evidence.
Wait, I didn't... Hold on.
so I made a complaint about that interaction with Officer Fraser there, and I made a complaint to the Chief of Police, Chief Kenward, that number one, his officer lied by not giving me, he didn't give me his real name. He told me his name was Officer, and then I had asked him, I said, what's your badge number? And he told me his badge number was number 1. But anyways, I did make a complaint. Officer Fraser did not give my cell phone at the hospital. I was parked there in my vehicle having chest pains, and somebody called in and said there was a suspicious vehicle. The police come, and that was my first interaction with Officer Fraser, so I made a complaint. The officer, the chief of police here, Chief Kenward says here, the fact that Officer Fraser did not give his name or badge number upon Mr. Ortiz's request is not a violation of the law. Yeah, right. If I'm, this is the officer who rolled up on me. This officer, suspicious vehicle call. This officer's name is Mesmer. On August 27, 2018, at about 1:09 a.m., patrol was dispatched to 200 Ohio Street for a suspicious vehicle. The vehicle was described as a gray 4-door Chevy. The northeast parking lot by the dumpster and had been there for approximately 2 hours. The RO observed the vehicle bearing New York registration parked next to the dumpster. The RO approached the vehicle from the driver's side and observed a male lying in the back seat, appearing to be sleeping. So, yeah, I was there. I was asleep in the vehicle, just wanting to be close to the hospital. So in any case, he didn't get my cell phone. I made a complaint to the chief of police, who said, that by me, according to Mr. Ortiz, Officer Fraser stated that he was there. According to Mr. Ortiz, Officer Fraser stated to Mr. Ortiz that there was a new law allowing police officers to seize video recordings of police investigations to enter into evidence. Here are 2 case laws regarding this. Number 1, a suspicious vehicle. Number 1, Chief Kenward is, He's exhibiting his true colors right here. I was asleep in my vehicle at the hospital, parked at the in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? And for him, you know, what's going on here? It's just, so that was my first involvement. And then there came another time when I was living in Medina at that address 226. Right here, I'm living at the 226 North Avenue, apartment 1 in Medina. And here's what happens. There came another time on September the 19th, 2019. There was a multi-agency SWAT team was conducting a training session at 218 North Avenue on a vacant property. Now, let me just say here that this property was, where they're doing this training exercise at 218, was right next door to where I'm living at 226 North Avenue. Right next door, 80 feet away, right? 80 feet away. This cop's vehicle is parked in the driveway. There's one in front of the house. The street is blocked off. There's military vehicles everywhere. There's camouflaged vehicles, SWAT, the big vehicle with SWAT stenciled on it. I mean, guys running around in military gear. There's equipment everywhere. And so I wake up, didn't know anything that's going on, hear all this crap. And I come outside, I tripped over a battering ram on the sidewalk. So I whipped out my cell phone and I started recording. So they're doing these training exercises right here at this house. Now this house was demoed the next day after the SWAT exercise, but Officer Kenward here, Orleans County Multi-Agency SWAT Team was conducting a training session 218 North Avenue on a vacant property. Prior to the exercise, letters were distributed to the neighbors explaining what was going to take place. Signs were posted at each end of the street the morning of the exercise to notify the public. That's not true, because if I would have known this was going on, I would have told other people and we would have had our cameras ready. So signs were posted at each end of the street the morning of the exercise to notify the public. One sign was stolen prior to the exercise. Oh, how convenient how he threw that in there. Sometime during the training session, Chief Kenward, as well as many other law enforcement officers participating in the training, observed Kenneth Ortiz walking west from the Lee Weeding Library utilizing a cell phone, video recording, SWAT equipment, and personnel. Right. See, I wasn't even coming from that end of the street. I was coming from in front of where I was dwelling, where I pay the rent, where I'm living, documented, 226 North Avenue, right next door to where you're. What happened was I came out into the street onto the other side of the sidewalk and crossed over towards the library and then came back across the street, coming back up to where I live. And then I was filming them. I had just tripped over a battering ram. There was a police officer right in front of the house breaking into a SUV because he locked his keys in it. It was a canine SUV, so the dog's barking. There's cops running around. I just tripped on a battering ram. There's SWAT. There's doors breaking. It's total chaos. There's loud booms, bangs, and chaos. So this officer's breaking into this vehicle. So I'm recorded now, and I'm on the sidewalk. But I'll let the... So west from the Lee Weeding Library, video recording SWAT equipment and personnel. Mr. Ortiz weaved in and out of the street, video recording, and eventually stood in the perimeter of the training session on the sidewalk in front of 218 North Ave, recording. That's right where I live, sir, Chief Kenward. 226 North Avenue, sir, right next door. What are you talking about? You didn't have the street taped off. And you can't tape off a public access way, a public sidewalk. You just can't do that. Officer Fraser was called to the train and due to Lieutenant Draper locking his keys in the marked patrol car, which was parked near or in front of 226 North Avenue. Guess who lives at 226 North Avenue? Huh? Right here. 226 North Avenue. Me. Okay, so I'm outside on the sidewalk and in the road. Filming SWAT, they had the whole street blocked off. Now, I'm not going to get excited about it, but if I would have known, I would have told everywhere. So now here comes Fraser, the same cop from the hospital earlier, sees me, yours truly, in the middle of the road, recording the SWAT team. And now he's aggravated because guess who locked their keys? Look at this. Officer Fraser was called to the train and due to Lieutenant Draper locking his keys in his marked patrol car, which was parked near or in front of 226 North Ave in the street. So I'm out in front of where I pay rent. The whole street is blocked off. Military, cop, vehicles everywhere. So here comes Officer Ambrose was called due to Officer Fraser not having the proper training or the tool to enter the locked patrol car. Kenneth Ortiz was observed standing 4 to 6 feet away from Officer Ambrose, who's parked near or in front of 226 North Avenue. Okay, blocking the driveway. Okay, blocking where I drive. Okay, where I maneuver, where I live. Okay, where I have a right to be. Okay. Standing 4 to 6 feet away from Officer Ambrose, who's breaking into a locked Medina marked patrol car that Officer Fraser did not have the training or the tool to enter. Okay? Officer Fraser was called to the train and due to Lieutenant Draper locking his keys in his marked patrol car, which was parked near or in front of 226 North Avenue in the street. Officer Ambrose was called to the scene due to Officer Fraser not having the proper tool to enter the locked patrol car. So guess who's entering the patrol car? Officer Ambrose. So there you have it. Okay, that's what's happening and that's what's going on. And then right here, Kenneth was observed by law enforcement personnel standing in the perimeter of the training session and on the sidewalk. Where are we at? On the sidewalk. Video recording SWAT personnel after videoing Officer Ambrose. Who? Officer Ambrose unlocking the patrol car. Okay? Body cam footage secured from Officer Ambrose cam shows footage onward to the arrest of Kenneth Ortiz for disorderly conduct. So there you have that. This is very upsetting for me to have to relive this, but I just want to point it out that look what's happening here. I come outside because there's SWAT teams smashing in doors, glass breaking. I tripped over a battering ram. I break out my cell phone. I start recording this officer, locked his keys in the car. They can't get it out. The dog's barking. Military guys are running all around the place, and here I am. You think I'm not going to start recording? I start whipping out every phone I had and started recording. And they'd say they notified the public. Well, yeah, no, they didn't. And look what happens, okay? Kenneth's claim of bodily injury to his hand is unfounded. Footage clearly shows Officer Fraser grabbing the cell phone that Kenneth was holding onto, not his hand. We cannot conclusively determine if Officer Fraser's action caused injury to Kenneth's hand or the handcuffs or something else. Provided medical documentation from Mr. Ortiz states contusion on the hand. Yeah, this officer, Fraser, the same guy who tried to seize my cell phone from the hospital, Medina PD, Officer Fraser, here, same officer, comes and sees me recording the SWAT while engaging Officer Ambrose, who's upset, angry, agitated, okay? So, and what I want to point out right here is Officer. So Officer Fraser seizes my cell phones. Here they go. Here's the document. Pause it and look if you want. He seizes my cell phone. But here's what Officer Corey Ambrose states happened, and I want you to see this. On September the 18th, 2019, and at about 10 a.m., I was in the area of 226 North Avenue when Ken Ortiz came around the corner of the house of 226 North Avenue. That's where I was living at. Ken started to record the SWAT team from the sidewalk. Is that illegal? I don't think so. He stated, he started to talk about how no one was notified about, the SWAT training that was going on. I advised him that the neighborhood was notified, and that's just not true. That's not true. Now, he was informed multiple times that he needed to talk to the district attorney. Ken then stuck his phone, which was believed to still be recording, into Officer Fraser's face. Officer Fraser did stick the back of his hand close to Ken's face, but never made contact with Ken. Okay. So Ken started to yell and scream about Officer Fraser sticking his hand near his face. Ken then stuck the phone back in Officer Fraser's face. Officer Fraser grabbed the phone out of his hand and stated that he was under arrest for disorderly conduct and to place him in custody. Ken started to back away as Officer Fraser took the first phone that Ken had in his hand. Ken then reached inside his left jacket pocket. Officer Fraser backed away slightly. Ken pulled a second phone from his jacket pocket, which Officer Fraser also took. Ken was then taken into custody by who? By Officer Ambrose. And placed in the back of a marked patrol car. Anyways, they put me into a holding cell where I did not need to be there, and that he could not wait to get to jail. Ken started to make threats about Officer Fraser's daughter. Officer Fraser opened the holding cell door and asked Ken if he was threatening Officer Fraser's daughter. Ken stated he could not wait to see her. This was taken as a threat. Officer Fraser walked away. So anyways, Officer Fraser charges me with making a terroristic threat. He also charges me with disorderly conduct. But you see, Medina is in Orleans County. So when I was brought to court with this piece of paper, it was insufficient because it's Medina, Cattaraugus County, not Medina, Orleans County. So that's not legal and lawful. And when Medina cops brought me to court for the felony terroristic threat, with just this paper, I advised the judge that this paper must be supported by another document called the supporting deposition. Okay, and they know all of that, CPL, all right? You cannot get a felony complaint without non-hearsay testimony by a victim or a witness who can describe each and every act of the crime. So this felony complaint is insufficient on its face, and they had to ROR me. And as a matter of fact, Officer Ambrose right down here even highlights that in his report. I, Officer Corey Ambrose, Medina PD, signed, badge number, signed. Here's what he says. Once at court, Ken was disruptive and argumentative with the judge. Ken was spouting off different sections of the CPL, and the judge released Ken on his own recognizance. Yeah, so the judge let me go. He had to ROR me. Could you believe how upset Ambrose, how Ambrose looked stupid having to uncuff me? But he kept it real, though. Ambrose told the truth when Fraser stuck his hand in my face just because I was like, Officer, what's your name and badge number? And he wouldn't, he was like, we're not doing this. And he hit me in the face, took my phone, seized both my cell phones. Seized them both. Okay, and when I got them back, they were erased. Both of them erased. And we'll get to that next. We'll get to that part next. So I was arrested and I met Officer Fraser because I was at the hospital parked, not bothering anybody in my vehicle, having chest pains, asleep in the car, which I was advised to do by the nurse at the hospital. The police come, the videos online on how I was treated, and then, I asked the officer's name and badge number, met him, and then all he wants to do is seize my cell phone. Then I meet him again months and months later because the SWAT team's outside, and I didn't know nothing. And, with all these active shooters going on, I didn't know. They're doing SWAT maneuvers, and when I mean SWAT maneuvers, I mean SWAT maneuvers. He even says it right here. Okay, multi-agency SWAT team on that date. And I'll even go back to the 18th of September 2019 and get more info about that. But that's how I met Greg Fraser of the Medina Police, who tried to take my phone, who was successful getting it this time. And that's why I was in jail with the terroristic threat from Officer Fraser, because when I was in the holding cell, begging for water, I need water, Officer Fraser, please, I need water. He came in and said, "What'd you say about my daughter?" I said, "What? I didn't say nothing about your daughter. I was asking for water, sir." And then I said, "You know what? Fuck you and your daughter. You ain't gonna give me any water. Fuck you and your daughter. Doesn't she work at the jail, sir?" "Yeah, she does work at the jail. And when I see her, I'm gonna tell her what an asshole you are. I can't wait to see her. I'm gonna tell her you're an asshole, Fraser." And then he looked at me. Fraser looks at me and says, "Good. Now I got you on a terroristic threat." So that's why they dropped it from a terroristic threat. I still had to return to court for this. They charged me with, that's why they dropped it to a B misdemeanor. Dropped it to a B misdemeanor right here. To her first degree harassment from a D felony terroristic threat. 90 days. You think I'm not going to take that in this corrupt county from a D felony to a B misdemeanor? I had to take it. So I took it and I ate it. 90 days. I go to jail and they're upset. They're all mad. And that's why I got assaulted by Officer Caulfield. And that's why these officers hate me and don't like me. Because I expose them. And I let the law use the law to speak for the law. By the law. The laws of the land. And that's how it is. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.